The camping place near the Sant Silvestre de Valleta Abbey was nice. I slept very well. During the night, various animals approached my tent, but nothing big or scary. Some hedgehogs, badgers, foxes and different rodents. But there were not even the famous wild boars. It was approaching 7 o'clock and I had to leave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, with the time spent making and eating breakfast, the time was already 7:45 and I was noticeably behind schedule. The bag was also heavy. Its weight was about 20 kilograms. Because there were problems with drinking water at this stage, I had to carry a lot of water. The weather forecast promised around 29 degrees Celsius and sunny weather. The morning, as always, started with a climb. The road sign indicated that the village of Villamaniscle was half an hour away. In the distance, some village, probably Villamaniscle, could be seen. The well-maintained paths were very pleasing, along which both hikers and cyclists moved without any problems, without disturbing each other. And there were no fools who imagine that the narrow, impenetrable forest path is a Formula 1 track, along which to rush at speed of 300 kilometers per hour. I did not find a real shop in Villamaniscle, but there was a small bar where I bought a Coca-Cola. I already had breakfast in the morning, so there was no need to stay any longer. I managed to fill up water bottles and continued my hike. As I left the village, large mountains were visible on the horizon. According to the information provided in the book, I realized that I might have to climb over that mountain range today. Today was supposed to be a rest day, with a planned distance of about 25 kilometers, but the mountains in the distance made it clear that I probably would not have any rest. It will definitely be fun, because even though the temperature is plus 29 degrees, it is still not 15 degrees, so climbing in such conditions is not easy. And the hikers from England and Czech Republic I just met said that this part was the most difficult part of the GR11 for them, due to the heat. The roads are very narrow and you have to be careful of cars. Soon I came to the crossroads of Rabos. Although many decide to go straight, saving distance, I decided to go along the original path, past the monastery of St. Quirze de Colera. I wanted everything to be as fair as possible. The temperature continued to climb in the morning and was steadily above 30 degrees. At the restaurant near St. Quirze de Colera monastery, I enjoyed sweet cottage cheese with honey and figs. I also ate ice cream, and where without Coca-Cola. The climb up the next mountain was easier than thought. The temperature was above 30 degrees, but I didn't feel it so much because of the wind. However, in terms of height, it seemed about 200 meters at first, but in reality it turned out to be at least 400 meters. Behind those big mountains should be France, so I don't have to climb over them today. But at the end of the day, there will still be a climb. The road from Maspils continued on a paved road. A Swiss hiker I met on the way warned me that it would be crazy. I tried to argue that walking on a rocky path is more difficult than on a paved road. He agreed, but added that the sun had made the paved road so hot that walking on it was like walking on a frying pan. And he was 100% right. Walking with light shoes was very unpleasant. In addition, there was not the slightest shadow for several hours. The path turned from the paved road, and there was hope of finding at least a little shade. The heat was really terrible, and I remembered how one GR11 hiker mentioned while walking the path that he was considering walking the path at night, when it was significantly cooler and walking would be easier. Another dried up river passed by on the way. Although this was a small one, I had seen even large dried up rivers on the way. People had put water on the side of the road for hikers. Thank you very much. After a while, the path continued upwards. At the end of it should have been the small settlement of Els Vilars. The GR11 signs were on the trees, so I concluded that I wasn't lost, but the settlement was still not visible. By walking very fast, I almost stepped on a snake. It was very unhappy about disturbance and quickly curled into the bushes, and I didn't have a chance to film it. The sign said 20 minutes, but even though I picked up my pace a lot, there was still no sign of Els Vilars after 25 minutes. Fortunately, after a while, I indeed reached Els Vilars. It wasn't a village with a shop in the center, but a couple of buildings and a place to fill up water. In my case, that was the most important thing. In Els Vilars I met two hikers from Israel and Norway. I didn't even notice how I chatted with them for almost 1 hour. By realizing the loss of time, I hurried on and forgot to completely fill all my water bottles. It was already 18 o'clock. Walk to form the Calc refuge would take at least 4.5 hours. It was not an option, because it would take several hours to walk through the forest in complete darkness. It was clear that I would have to spend the night somewhere along the way. The planned distance was not easy to make. I had only walked about 25 kilometers, but hoped to walk at least 30 kilometers. The sun was setting faster and faster, but I was starting to lack the strength to climb the hill. Realizing that I would not have time to reach normal camping spots, I had to look around for a place to pitch a tent. Unfortunately, there are not many such places on the mountain peaks, and this circumstance made me more and more worried at every moment. Moreover, driven by despair, I ate the last apple, and, what was even worse, I drank my last can of Coca-Cola, which was the so-called untouchable reserve. I didn't have much water left either. I was hoping to find some berries near the trail, because they were very good source of energy and also helped against thirst. I came from there, and the trail continued into the dark, dense forest. There was a small hill behind me with an impenetrable jungle, so I decided that the tent would need to be pitched against the possible winds from the open side. The sun was rapidly approaching the horizon, and it was clear that it would be impossible to continue the trail in the dark, so I decided to spend the night at the top of the mountain. Although the place was relatively open, there was no forecast of strong winds at night. However, the predicted 14 km per hour still made me take precautions by using the tent's guidelines, just in case. In addition, I used a method recommended somewhere in the forums to secure the tent not to the arcs but to additional loops, so that the fragile ultralight tent material would not be turned into shreds by the wind. 4 more additional guidelines would have been very useful, but they did not arrive on time from the online shop, so I started my hike without them. Unfortunately, a storm started at night. Instead of the promised wind speed 14 km per hour, it was 39 km per hour, and at one point it was even 42. All that remained was to hope that both the tent and I would survive this night.